Ladies and gentlemen, there is a new member of the free agency list that we could have never expected to go down this way. In a historic move with the biggest dead cap hit to an NFL team in the history of the NFL. $85 million spread over 2 years will not be available for the Denver Broncos to use as the salary cap continues to yodel, yodel, yodel. $85 million will not be available for the Denver Broncos because they have cut Russell Wilson. Future, people say Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion from the Seattle Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
Massive investment by the Walton family whenever they bought the Denver Broncos to be the future of the Denver Broncos. And here we sit 1 year into Sean Payton's regime as the actual future of the Denver Broncos with no franchise quarterback and Russell Wilson able to take a gig somewhere else for league minimum while still making like $39 million from the Denver Broncos. Like the boys mentioned, he's going to be worth, his veteran min is what, $1.15 million because Vikings or Broncos are going to pick up $39 million or whatever the case is. So, like, there's a lot of teams that are quarterback needy that are all of a sudden like, wait a minute, Mr. Unlimited's available. Give us the founder of the Danger Witch, especially at that cost to their salary cap and to their team. I think he's going to have a pretty, I think personally, I might be wrong, there's going to be a lot of people interested if it can be a $1 million, $2 million deal for your quarterback. That means you can spend money everywhere else. Raiders would not be one of those places, right? Because they're trying to find the Raider. Like Russell Wilson is what, the complete opposite of a Raider? Or is that...
it would be in terms of size. The Raider way is about size and speed, about getting guys that can run, that are big and physical in the offensive and defensive line.
I might be wrong, though, but it is also like, isn't it
attitude, like swagger?
Yeah, like there's a moxie, a swagger, a confidence, a cockiness almost, seemingly. Like,
but a love of football that combines with that, and so like the Howie Long, he represents the Raider way. Those guys are physical, big, tough guys. Look, Russell's only going to make what he makes, right? So this is like anybody who's out there on the internet saying Russell's going to make, they're going to pay him like a starter. Nobody should do that. Now, I can't judge everybody, but the reality of it is whatever nickel he earns over the minimum salary, Denver gets off the hook. So it isn't his capped earning. So you're not going to pay him anymore. So he's a minimum salary contract guy. Now you could put incentives in there and do all that stuff. I don't know if the incentives come off as earned. It probably does. So it takes Denver off the hook, but you don't mind doing that in terms of if he wins for you. But the reality of it is this is a minimum contract. And you got to come in and improve yourself, which is where he is. And I think ultimately that's going to appeal to some teams. It may not appeal to Russell, though.
So I would assume, that's interesting. Like Russell doesn't know that this is potentially about to happen. Like our immediate thought was, this dude's getting a veteran min contract.
Layup.
He's getting 39 from Denver because he didn't thank the owners. Right? He didn't thank Sean Payton in his goodbye thing. So, like, sticking it to Denver, you're saying letting Denver off the hook is probably something he's like, they're going to pay me. These people are going to pay me. So I just assumed that he would be on board with that. We will see over the next couple of weeks, certainly. If Kirk Cousins is to leave Minnesota's a perfect place for him, isn't it? With Minnesota, with Kevin O'Connell and that offense, with them having to pay Justin Jefferson? Is that what your thoughts are?
Well, that would be my thought. I mean, Minnesota right now has around $35 million of cap room. So, they're waiting on Cousins. They'll take a huge cap hit when he leaves. Obviously, they've got that built into their salary cap structure right now. But I think at the end of the day, if you're going to have to make it really worth Cousins' while to leave, right? I think most players want to stay within the system. But when the money gets great or they can get to a tax-free state, that's really important too. Everybody says, give us a hometown discount. There is no hometown discount. It's a tax-free state discount, right? If you're trying to do Mike Evans' contract in Tampa, Florida, with no state income tax, and if the Jets were trying to sign him, that contract has to be adjusted to offset that state income tax. That's a hard thing. That's challenging for the team. So I think that Cousins, unless somebody blows it out of the water, I think Minnesota's going to be in it. But where does Minnesota go if they don't sign him back? I think they've got to look at somebody like Russell to buy time until they get the next quarterback.
We appreciate you, Lombo. Russell Wilson now could potentially get a $1.15 million salary cap hit next year for another team. be their starting quarterback, compete for a job, I guess people are saying, might happen in certain places, which, okay, yeah, probably, I guess, especially with the salary cap hit only being $1.15 million. You can get cut, too, at that particular price from another team. But, like, this is a perfect setup for a lot of teams that potentially need a quarterback that don't have to spend money on the quarterback position, AJ.
I mean, think about it. Why would you, like, think how many teams would have to kick the tires, as they say, on Russell Wilson? Yeah, you don't want to pay the guy $40 or $50 million for a year, but if you can pay slightly over $1 million for Russell Wilson, and you look at his stats and everything, like you can see he played pretty well at times last year and then dumped the rest of it on the Broncos. Why would you not bring this guy in?
Yeah, and seemingly you would think Russell Wilson would also want to dump the rest of it on the Broncos with how everything went, even though they're paying him so much money.
A ton.
Remember how big that deal was that he signed with the Denver Broncos?
He didn't even start the deal.
They didn't need to, though. They didn't have to do it.
Nope.
Yeah, he hadn't even started the extension that they negotiated, but he hadn't even stepped foot on their field yet.
No.
Like
no.
They hadn't even seen him
in a jersey.
Wow.
They didn't even give him his office yet.
And he wears his jersey a lot, so it was hard not to see him in the jersey.
We did see him wear his jersey, come in the training camp, which once again, if he was winning, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
You lose, it goes the other way. Done it, AJ.
It was at the beginning.
Yeah, it does. If you're winning, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But you lose, that's the second they're going to jump on everything you're doing.
Think about Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings, and I mentioned this in the first hour, and this might be me doing exactly what Bill Burr just talked about people doing, just saying, like, boom, this is how this is supposed to work out. If Florio, who's going to join us in 5 minutes of Pro Football Talk, tells us about the Kirk Cousins moving to Atlanta thing a little bit more, as opposed to just a tweet that we all saw. But if Kirk Cousins is not returning to Minnesota seemingly, okay, I think everybody in Minnesota wants Kirk Cousins back, so I'm not ruling that out. I'm living in a world where Kirk Cousins is gone. Would that not be, Addison, Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell's offense is wide open. They're going to pay wide receiver big money, so you can't really pay a quarterback. That has seemingly been the trend with the salary cap, but where the salary cap's heading, who knows what the trends are going to be going forward, but it's like, that seems like a match made in heaven. Now, will that be the case? I don't know, but what are your thoughts on that? That feels like that makes too much sense almost.
It does feel like it makes too much sense, but I'm curious as to, like, how many offers is Russ going to have? Like, I feel like he's going to have some options. I feel like at this price tag, if you only have to pay him a little over $1 million, now is Russ going to try to say, hey, no, I want more than league minimum and on top of the 39 or whatever I'm getting from Denver?
So the whole thought of teams competing with each other, so like if you have three people at the offering table, you see what's going to happen here, okay? Offer, this one sets the table now for this one, and then this one, and then you get $230 million guaranteed for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, okay? Because there's a lot of teams that are in this entire thing. But if everybody's only in it because of the cap on it, I do wonder, how that whole thing will go. Like, I wonder what the number will become. Michael Lombardi referenced last hour, like maybe it'll be incentive-based, but he doesn't know if incentive-based money is towards money earned, which he thinks it is against money earned, so that would take money off the hook for the Denver Broncos, which he doesn't think that any team would want to do, and we don't know if Russell Wilson would want to do, but we assume he wouldn't want to do that as well. What do you have there?
I just went through, like, all 32 teams, and, like, the quarterback-needy teams I think that everyone is looking at is definitely Minnesota, 1, Atlanta, not 2, depending on if Kirk goes there. But if Kirk doesn't go there, could it be Atlanta, the Steelers, the Raiders, Washington, and New England? Like, if he's looking, because he's a free agent, so he can pick. So he's going to want to start, right? Or he's going to want to go to a place where he can compete to start at least. He's not going to go to any of these other teams where, like the Giants, maybe. But it feels like those are probably the suitors, right?
Well, like even you got to think, like, let's say the Bucs obviously are all in on Baker. Does this not change it maybe just a little bit? Like, hey, yes, we love Baker, but we probably do have to pay him $25 to $30 million.
That's a good point.
Like, do we even consider, like, hey, let's go talk to Russ and see?
With Mike Evans back?
With Mike Evans, it gives you more money.
What's Mike Evans getting, $35 million guaranteed?
Yep, over 2 years.
$50 million?
Yep.
Hey, congrats, Mike.
Hell of a deal. Hell of a deal.